In the world of fighter jets, perception is everything. It's a world where bigger is almost always seen as better, where thrust-to-weight ratios are gospel, and where a jet's reputation is locked in long before it ever sees a real fight. In this arena, you had the Titans, the F-16 Fighting Falcon, the battle-proven workhorse of NATO, the Eurofighter Typhoon, a twin-engine European powerhouse built for one thing: air superiority. These were the champions, backed by the industrial might of global superpowers. And then there was the Swedish Gripen, a lightweight single-engine fighter from a famously neutral country. To many analysts, the Gripen was cute, a niche product. It was often dismissed as being in a lower class altogether, too small, too light, and lacking the raw power of its rivals. The story was already written. The Gripen was a decent defender for a small country, but it couldn't possibly run with the big dogs. In the blunt language of internet forums, it was overrated. But then, they met. Not in a magazine, but in the high-stakes simulated combat of NATO's red flag exercises. And over the icy wilderness of Alaska, the pilots of those F-16s and Typhoons were in for a brutal surprise. This is the story of what happens when deeply held beliefs slam into battlefield reality. Red flag is the final exam for an Air Force. Held in the unforgiving Alaskan wilderness, it's where the best pilots from allied nations test their skills and their jets against a dedicated adversary force. The goal is to simulate the first 10 most chaotic and lethal missions of a war. Reputations are made and broken here. In 2006, the Swedish Air Force showed up with their JAS 39 Gripen fighters and were assigned to the Red Team, the aggressors. This role is a handicap by design. They had less support from AWACS, eyes in the sky, and limited help from ground control. They were meant to be the problem the bigger, better Blue Team was supposed to solve. The Blue Team, flying a mix of top-tier American F-16s and British Typhoons, expected a tough fight, but a predictable one. They had the power and the numbers. What they didn't have was a clue about what the Gripen was about to do. According to accounts from observers and a former Swedish flight test engineer, the results from day one were so lopsided they were met with disbelief. The Gripen scored 10 kills. Among the downed aircraft were a Eurofighter Typhoon and 5 F-16s. The number of Gripens lost? 0. They were never even detected. How was that possible? The answer was a radical tactical approach that turned the Gripen's supposed weaknesses into its greatest assets. Instead of fighting as individuals, the Swedish pilots used their advanced data links to turn their entire formation into one cohesive combat system. As a Saab test pilot put it, it's like flying inside the internet, where every pilot shares a complete picture of the battle. One Gripen could light up its radar, find a target, and then, without making itself an obvious target, silently feed that data to the rest of the flight. The other Gripens remained electronically dark, their own radars off, like ghosts in the machine. They saw everything the active jet saw, but to the enemy, they were invisible. They effectively became their own mini AWACS. The Blue Team pilots were flying into an ambush they couldn't see, searching for individual jets to target. Instead, they were being hunted by a silent, coordinated pack. By the time an F-16 or Typhoon pilot got a warning, a missile was already notionally on its way, launched from a fighter they never knew was there. As the exercise went on, the shock deepened. In one now legendary engagement, a single Gripen pilot was reportedly credited with downing 5 F-16s in a close-range dogfight. On paper, this makes no sense. The F-16 is a monster in a turning fight, but the Gripen, with its Delta Canard design, is incredibly agile. It has lower drag than an F-16, letting it turn tightly without losing speed. The pilot, using the jet's aerodynamic strengths and superior awareness from his data link, could anticipate his opponents and get into a firing position again and again. Beyond the kill ratios, another statistic stunned observers. Through brutal Alaskan weather that grounded other jets, The Gripen was the only fighter to complete every single planned mission. It was a testament to a design built for harsh Nordic reality, one that values reliability and quick maintenance just as much as raw power. Of course, there was skepticism. The numbers were astronomical and exercise rules can skew results. But the performance was too compelling to ignore. It was a clear signal that the Gripen wasn't just a lightweight fighter, it was a networked predator, and it had just taught NATO a lesson in a new kind of warfare. The whispers from Alaska were seismic. A 10-0 kill ratio? 5 F-16s downed by a single Gripen? To many it sounded too good to be true. Skeptics pointed out that exercise scenarios can be manipulated. For the Gripen's performance to be seen as more than a fluke, it needed to be independently confirmed. That confirmation came from a series of exercises with another highly respected NATO member, the Royal Norwegian Air Force. The drills took place over Sweden, giving the Gripens a home field advantage. But the opponents were the real deal. Norwegian pilots trained to the highest NATO standards, flying the same F-16s that form the alliance's backbone. The setup was simple. 3 Swedish Gripens versus 5 Norwegian F-16s, over 3 separate rounds. The results were staggering. The first round ended 5-0 to the Gripens. The second round, 5-0 again. In the final round, the Norwegians managed to score a single kill, but the round still ended in a decisive 5-1 victory for Sweden. Crucially, these weren't just Swedish claims. The results were publicly recorded and acknowledged by Norway, a NATO ally. This was the validation. The performance in Alaska wasn't a fluke, it was a pattern. So how did this happen again? The home turf advantage helped, but it couldn't explain such a lopsided victory against skilled pilots. The answer was the same: networked cooperation over brute strength. The 3 Gripen pilots weren't fighting as 3 jets. They were one interconnected brain, sharing sensor data seamlessly. One Gripen could paint a target, while the other 2 remained invisible, ready to strike from unexpected angles. The Norwegian F-16 pilots were likely seeing a confusing, incomplete picture. A single radar contact here, a fleeting signal there. Meanwhile, the Gripen pilots saw everything, laid out on their displays as one unified battlefield. They were playing chess while their opponents were playing checkers. The exercise drove home the point that judging a fighter on speed or turn rate was an outdated metric. The Gripen was proving that a smaller jet with a superior brain, a powerful network capability, could dominate bigger opponents. The brutal 15-1 scoreline was the exclamation point. The Gripen wasn't overrated. It was profoundly misunderstood. The evidence from these exercises is pretty compelling. But what do you think? Can superior networking and tactics really make up for raw power and numbers in a real fight? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're enjoying this breakdown of modern air combat, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. So, how does a lightweight fighter take down some of the world's best jets? It's not one magic trick, but a combination of a revolutionary design philosophy and some seriously clever tech. First and foremost is its mastery of network-centric warfare. The Swedish Air Force knew they'd likely be outnumbered in any conflict, so for decades they poured resources into data link technology. Their system allows a formation of Gripens to operate as a single distributed brain. One jet's sensors become everyone's sensors. This enables a tactic called silent hunting. A single Gripen lights up its powerful radar, finds the enemy, and shares the data. The other Gripens in the flight keep their radars off, staying electronically invisible while closing in for the kill. It turns a squadron into a network of silent assassins. This capability is also fully integrated with NATO. The Gripen's Link 16 data link is the alliance standard, proven in real-world missions. Immediately after Sweden joined NATO on March 7, 2024, its Gripens were flying missions under alliance command. By April 2025, they were deployed to Poland, conducting live intercepts alongside British Typhoons, proving the integration was flawless. The second ingredient is the Gripen's sensor suite and electronic warfare, EW. The new Gripen E features the Raven AESA radar. Unlike older radars, an AESA can scan and track multiple targets with incredible speed. But the Gripen's is mounted on a swash plate, giving it a much wider field of view than fixed radars on many rivals. It can literally look over its shoulder to keep track of threats. Paired with this is the Skyward G Infrared Search and Track, IRST system. This is a passive sensor. It hunts for the heat of an enemy aircraft's engine without emitting any energy of its own. It's a stealth killer. Even a fighter designed to beat radar still puts out a plume of hot air. In a heavily jammed environment, the Gripen can turn off its radar and still hunt effectively with its IRST. The third and most overlooked element is the Gripen's design philosophy. Sweden designed an aircraft that didn't need massive vulnerable air bases. The Gripen is built to operate from short 800-meter stretches of highway. A small ground crew can refuel, rearm, and get it back in the air in as little as 10 minutes, a fraction of the time needed for bigger jets. That operational tempo is an adversary's nightmare. This practicality extends to its cost. While figures vary, study after study shows the Gripen is one of the cheapest modern fighters to fly. Recent estimates for the Gripen E are around $22,000 to $36,000 per hour, which is consistently more economical than rivals that can soar well above $46,000 an hour. This isn't just about saving money, it's a huge tactical advantage. Lower costs mean more flight hours. More hours mean better pilots. A grounded F-35 is just an expensive hangar queen. A Gripen in the air with a well-trained pilot is a deadly threat. The Gripen's exercise performance is impressive, but how does it translate to the real world? We're seeing the answer unfold right now. Within days of Sweden's NATO accession in March 2024, Gripens were scrambled under Alliance command to intercept Russian aircraft over the Baltic Sea, working smoothly with other Allied jets. These weren't drills, they were live missions, proving the Gripen was ready from day one. Future deployments, like taking part in NATO's Iceland air policing mission in early 2026, further cement its role as a reliable and capable platform. Perhaps the most compelling case for the Gripen's role, however, lies in the skies over Ukraine. As Ukraine integrates the F-16, a huge challenge is Russia's use of long-range air-to-air missiles like the R-37M, which outrange the F-16's standard AMRAAM missiles. This forces Ukrainian pilots to fly dangerously low, limiting their effectiveness. This is where the Gripen, armed with the Meteor missile, could be a game-changer. The Meteor is a European ramjet-powered missile that dramatically outranges the AMRAAM. Its engine allows it to stay powered and maneuverable all the way to the target, creating a massive no-escape zone. The strategic implication is profound. A handful of Gripens with Meteors could act as a fighter shield for the F-16s. The Gripens could fly high, using their long-range missiles to threaten any Russian jets that try to engage. This would free up the F-16s to focus on their main job, striking ground targets. It's a perfect synergy, where the Gripen's unique air superiority punch enables the F-16's multi-role strength. It's a strategy that leverages the best of both platforms, and it's a capability that analysts believe could be a decisive factor. This highlights the Gripen's ultimate value. It's not just an F-16 replacement, but a powerful complementary asset that brings unique and decisive capabilities to the fight. The story of the JAS-39 Gripen is a powerful lesson in how warfare evolves. For years, the narrative was dominated by bigger, heavier, more powerful jets. The Gripen was written off as an overrated lightweight that couldn't possibly compete. Then came the brutal surprise. In elite NATO exercises, pilots from the world's best air forces learned that a 10-0 kill ratio was possible, and that a 15-to-1 drubbing was not a fluke. They discovered that in the age of networked warfare, a thinking squadron of Gripens could pick apart a larger force of individually powerful jets. The Gripen's success isn't about one gadget. It's a different philosophy, one that values information dominance over brute force, one that values reliability and the ability to fight from anywhere, and one that understands that lower costs create more lethal pilots. From the skies of Alaska to the tense borders of the Baltics, the Gripen has proven its point. It's more than a fighter jet. It's a complete weapon system that redefines lethality. The debate over which single fighter is the best will never end. But the Gripen has irrevocably changed the terms of that debate. It proved that the true measure of a fighter isn't just its thrust or payload, but its ability to think, to share, and to dominate the cognitive battlefield. The question is no longer whether the Gripen is overrated, but how many are still underestimating the revolution it represents.